How far does your memory stretch? Do you remember your past lives, or indeed do you remember being another being in another world on another planet? Well, today's guest does. And we're going to explore her memories and what she went through on another planet and how it dovetails with where we are right now in human society and what we're going through collectively as a human population with the gorgeous Jennifer Jurkofsky. So it's going to be an exciting conversation. I can't wait to hear her memories. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal. The wrong button there. We're syndicated radio, streaming through 120 countries all over the place, and through New Orleans, coming out of New Orleans on 107.7 and the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM. And we're streaming on lots of platforms today because Jennifer's added her platforms as well. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you for having me, Karen. I'm excited to be here and to have another wonderful conversation.
I know. Jennifer was on the show last week with Sylvan talking about the ET embassy on Earth, and it was a great conversation. But Jennifer's story, I didn't know anything about her. I asked Sylvan if he wanted to invite someone, and he invited Jennifer and didn't really tell me anything about her, but I read her bio, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much to your story that I'd like to explore. And I was going to take December off and put up recordings, but I thought, look, because I'm usually like booked out for the shows months in advance, but because I had taken December off to do recordings, I keep booking people in. So I said, come on next week because I want to hear your story because it sounds amazing and you've written a book about it. Excited for this conversation. Yay! Pogo. Love that name. Pogo. And you've written a book about it called The Lyran Legacy, which goes into it. And Jennifer was just saying, I should have sent it to you. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but we're going to hear a little bit about it now. So let me tell you a little bit about Jennifer. She's a licensed psychotherapist, spiritual counselor, and intuitive life coach whose work blends mental health, conscious studies, and interstellar readiness. She serves as a special advisor for human development and interstellar contact readiness in Canada with the Alliance and as an Earth-based elder on the Galactic Elders Council, guiding planetary individual consciousness towards alignment with cosmic principles. And she's written a few books on consciousness and a coloring book for the human design system, or the human design, what's it called, coloring book and journal. But we're going to talk about the Lyran legacy today. And she writes here, what if nightmares of ancient wars and the longing for a home you've never seen are memories? Journey through the destruction of worlds and scattering of the Lyran people and the formation of the Galactic Federation. This is not science fiction. This is soul memory. So, yeah, exciting. I was saying to Jennifer before we went live, I've actually heard a lot about the Lyran Wars as I've passed through different podcasts. Lots of people are talking about it, the Lyran Wars, the Orion Wars, the Galactic Wars. And I've thought to myself, God, we've got enough focus on wars on Earth. Do we need to focus on wars out in the cosmos? So I've never really tuned into that conversation. But I thought, well, today's the day to do it because, yeah, I really don't know much about it. How did these memories occur to you? Was it a hypnosis thing or did it come to you? Like, how did the memories come back?
A little bit of a lot of things, actually. The first memory I had came back in a dream. And it was the first time that I went through my Akashic records. It was fantastic because in that moment, I remember waking up and going, I have to write this down. And I'm just typing away all of the memories. And this lifetime was just one in a series of memories that had come through. And I didn't think anything of it at the time when it first originated. And then I'd have, different things come through periodically over the course of many years. And I kept getting, we do card readings once a month, Tanis and I kept getting this card that would come up for me whenever a reading was done saying, it's okay, your family is safe. And I'm going, I know my family's safe. I don't understand why I keep getting this card. And as the memories expanded, there was a moment and I just went, oh, I know why I keep getting this, and just release. So much release about the trauma of that lifetime. And at that point, the memories really started to flood back, and I was able to step into the energy of that lifetime.
And how old were you when that first happened? Like, did you have memories as a child, or were you an adult when that happened?
As a child, I always loved the stars. I always loved watching them. I remember being out in the country and looking up and looking at the galaxies and being enamored with it, but I didn't have any inkling of this connection until I was an adult. And it's interesting to have that come through. And I know for myself, especially being in the world of mental health and regulatory bodies and all of that, there was a hesitation for me to actually step into this and to allow myself to put this out there. I kept getting write it down, and I would write it down more and more, the memories and all of that. But in my mind, it was, I'm journaling this. That's all it is, until eventually it became, no, you're going to put this out there. This is important for the time that we're living in. And the way that you're writing about this and the way that the memories are coming through are important. And so I had a lot of work to do within myself to be ready to bring this forward.
Yeah, I guess that you wouldn't have had the memories unless you were supposed to have the memories in order to share them. Yeah. I think that a part of the big part of the shift of this world is not that stuff happens to you, is that we're sharing it, that we're disclosing it, that we're making people aware of what's possible, of who we are, of what's possible. That's like with a lot of NDE experiences or abduction experiences. People have the experience, but sharing them, it can be scarier than the experience sometimes, but sharing them is what's changing the world. Not that they're having the experience, but that they're sharing them and making people aware of, what's going on. So what's going on for you? It was a Lyran life, right? And you were a Lyran. And our Lyrans, I'm just looking at this photo of your book. She looks like a cat. People say they're the cat people. I'm thinking of Avatar. The ETs in Avatar look like the cat people. So the Lyrans are sort of cat-looking people?
Yes. So in the constellation of Lyra, there were several different groups. So the group that I was the cat-like Lyrans. We also have the avians that were in the Lyran system. They are the bird-like beings. And we have others that are also golden-skinned. And so within the Lyran system, there were several different Lyran beings. This was the one that I was. And then, of course, at that point in time, intergalactically, there was also other races around and all of that, and a mixing of them.
So the life that you lived on Lyra was a galactic community. They were connected to their neighbors in the cosmos. It wasn't like Earth where we're have been cut off.
It was very different. So I was on the planet Avalon. The avians were on Avion, and then there was many other planets that were a part of the Lyran system. Very different cosmology than what we have today, and that's because of the war.
Okay, so what happened? What do you remember?
Oh, what happened and what I remember. So I'll break it down a little bit in the book. So the way that I brought this forward in the book was in different sections. And so the first section of the book is written as a galactic history. It really is the what happened, without a whole lot of my personal interjection. And what I talk about there is the division between the different ideologies that were in the galaxy at that time. So when we talk about the war, most of the time people are saying, okay, it's the Lyran Draconian War, and it was between these races, but it really was between the two fundamental beliefs of that service to self, where we need to just take care of ourselves, and that's all that's important. And that idea of service to other, where we want to be in community and we want to be in service and we want to support one another in our evolution. And because of the way that the draconian system arose in our galaxy, it was primed for this conflict to happen. And I do talk about this in the book because I think that so often we look at this as good guys and bad guys, and that's not really at all what this was about. The Draconians were from the beginning in a really difficult position. Then they were not able to maintain what was going on the planets that they were on. And there's a whole backstory to that, which we can get into if you want. But it really, I wanted to make sure that I set the stage properly, that this wasn't about us versus them in this mindless battle. There really was an urgency for the Draconians, and we didn't want to give up our plans. We wanted to work with them. We wanted to help them, but we didn't want to just allow them to take over. And they don't operate in that way of getting support or help. It's no survival of the fittest. We're just going to take what we want. And as we were saying before the show, when it comes to war, nobody wins. And in that situation, neither side really was able to get what they wanted. But we do recognize that everything does have a purpose. And I talk about that in the book as well. I talk about the galaxy being formed the way it is because of what happened. The Arcturus stream, it's so fascinating, but it was pulled into our galaxy. It doesn't follow the same trajectory as other things within our galaxy, and that's because it wasn't originally there. It came in as a counterbalance to the Draconians billions and billions of years ago. So there's just really fascinating galactic information that came through to me in this book that I was able to transmit. And I remember thinking at so many different points going, okay, but is that what it really looks like? Is that I had to actually look things up to see, and everything checked out every time. And I went, okay, this is incredible transmission.
Okay, so this happened, your memories happened in a time that was before Earth was formed, as we understand linear time, or when did it happen?
This would have been billions of years ago.
So before Earth, yeah.
Lifetime happened.
And you're living on a planet, and the planet was called, it was in the Lyran system, but it was on a planet called, what was the name of the planet again?
Avalon.
Avalon.
Like Avalon we have today, but that's...
Yeah. And the Draconians wanted to take over your planet. Why? What happened to their planet? Or is it just a bit like what happens here on Earth? Like you own a country and then you decide that you need to own that country too. Like,
maybe a little bit of both. But what was really going on? So this is well, I see the comment there. If you want to say hello,
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. So what was going on at that time, and this is kind of the backstory I was talking about. So in the Draco system, there's a dwarf galaxy, and that galaxy is actually a portal to another system. And that's the system where the ancient dragons are, where the rest of the reptilians are. And this whole thing with the Draconians even being here in our system was technically it was a punishment. So what happened is they were depleting the resources in their own system, and instead of just destroying them, the upper echelons of the reptilians wanted to send them through into this part of the galaxy where that was very harsh. And so what they did is they put them through, and then they proceeded to watch them through this portal, almost like a looking glass. And this made the reptilians that came through, that became the Draconians of the Draco system, really angry. It made them, they were already the epitome of service to self there. They were already depleting resources and not managing things well. But when this incident happened, instead of being a catalyst for change, it really threw them completely into this other way of being that caused their downfall. And so even though they did have some ability and they tried for a long time to make it work, they couldn't sustain life anymore where they were. And so they were venturing out. And when they realized that there were other planets now that were developing and strong and healthy, they wanted them. And that's a really, they did want to take over, and they did do that in different areas just to show dominance. But this was a lot more. They wanted the planets. They wanted to be able to take them over. And when they couldn't have them, they went for destruction.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. It's still sounding very much like Avatar. Did you love that movie, Avatar? Did that remind you of your memories?
I loved that movie. And the first one came out, and something within me was moved, and I went, okay,
yeah.
I don't know. At that point, I don't know what this is, but there is a connection here. And then when the second one came out, I cried. I just cried through so many parts of it, because it really did resonate. I am sure that he has some galactic memory that brought these movies forward.
I think all imagination is memory, to tell you the truth. I think what we call fantasy and imagination is just tapping into the galactic Akashic field and just picking up on storyline that's been lived, that's been lived. But the cat people, the blue, they were blue. Is your gal blue? She's not blue. Let me have a look at her. Oh, yeah, she is. She's a little bit blue. Oh, she's white.
I'm not, but the Pleiadians, and so Teriel, who is the other character in the book, is blue as a Pleiadian.
So what I'm interested in is, we'll get back to the war and what happened, but do you have memories of how you lived as an ET on another planet? Like, were you living in houses? Were you living amongst nature? Was it ultra modern? Was it more sort of tribal and primitive? Like, what was the society like?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, so it was, I would have to say it's a combination. So we talk about ultra modern, but when I see ultra modern here, it's more of that kind of different kind of art style. This was very aesthetically pleasing in the sense that everything looked like it belonged together. So the way that a city was made, it looked like the entirety of it was meant to be together. It wasn't, a little bit of something here or another kind of structure there. Yeah. But nature was deeply interwoven into all of it. And so we would have nature, of course, around, but then nature also inside. And so everything was made in such a way to live harmoniously. So even though it was advanced, it was harmonious.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds beautiful. It sounds like the possibility of where we can go. When I think about stuff like that, because the way that the earth has been built, it's like people have great ideas, but they're not congruent with all the other great ideas. Like they don't come together and say, let's design this in a way that, complements each other. It's like, no, let's put that building there and that building there and that. But there's just,
It's such a different way of being in the world that lifetime, and not just for the Lyrans, but for all of the races. It's just a different way of experiencing. So even though we each have our own unique identity, we have the ability to connect on a deep level through that oneness. So I start the book off by talking about, even before my lifetime, of what it was to be in the oneness and that moment where we decided to incarnate, and the transition and what that looked like, and how we maintained that connection for such a long time, that oneness connection where we were able to recognize that what we did impact everything and everyone around us. And so even though we came to have an individuated experience, it really wasn't completely individualized, because we still always were able to stay in that connection. And we had different practices and things that would maintain that connection so that we wouldn't lose and fall into that place of separation.
And tell me more about the society. Like, what was there money? How was it structured? Was there family groups, or was there more community groups, or how is it structured?
Yeah, this part is so fascinating because, again, with every transmission, I think that there is a piece of us that filters it through our own understanding. My apologies. The dogs have decided to go a little crazy. Guys? Okay. So, we think of it the way that we live in the world today, but that's not how it was then. Yes, we had family structures. I remember my parents. I, can remember other family units. And yet the way that we looked at family was so significantly different than the way that we look at it today. It wasn't about, bloodline and mother, father. Family really was community. And one of the things that I talked about in the book is how we grow up, and what the different stages of growing up looks like, and how the relationships that are formed during those times are also family. And so, I talk about being in the academy and what it is to do these different learning retreats that we did. And each time we did that, our cohort that we were with was family. Every time we went on to a new planet to learn something, the inhabitants of that planet were family. It's a very different way. There isn't an other in that sense. It was always, you embraced, where people were, where these different souls were, as your cosmic family.
And within the society, so like Earth, there's so much variety in the way that we look. Was there different looking beings on the one planet, or were they all like the cat looking beings?
There's main planets associated with where we originated, but for the most part, we mixed and intermingled. And even before, I call it the diaspora, right? Even before that great scattering happened, there was still a lot of different races that were interacting together. But once, we had planets that were starting to be destroyed, and everybody had to disperse and go to different places, it was beautiful to see how these different areas, it just embraced everybody and took them in, and how their culture was able to evolve and grow. And even how we looked shifted depending on where we were. If we were in a different atmosphere, if the food was different, we would adapt and change accordingly.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm thinking about Avatar, and I'm thinking about cats and cat beings, because I'm always amazed at the agility of cats, like my cat, like what they can do. Just watching it jump up on a fence yesterday, how it jumped probably 5 times its height up onto a fence effortlessly. And I'm thinking, God, cat bodies are so amazing. So now I'm thinking about the attributes of a cat body and a human body coming together. And Avatar depicted it beautifully, like the agility of those cat bodies in the movie Avatar, the way that they could just effortlessly swing through trees, and just like a cat can, but then with the same human attributes. Do you remember like the body that you were in, what it felt like and what you could do? And yeah.
It's, I do. And it is, I'm just sitting in it for a moment. Sorry. It's incredible to feel the life in it. There's so much of what we have now that just weighs us down. And that's very different than what it felt like being in these other bodies. So as a Lyran, my body, it was very sleek, that was very muscular. It was able to do things. And I just, you said about the agility and all of that. I remember, playing and running and jumping and swinging through, I remember those things as a child. And I remember, playing with kids in the class and the different things that we were doing. And there was never a moment of, oh, I don't know, or no, I can't do that. Or, what if I hurt myself? Like, yes, we could get hurt, but it wasn't the mindset. And I think that because it was so different for us in that we were just willing to try things and to do things. And we had the ability to move in different ways. One of the things that I do talk about in the book, and this is a little bit harder because some of the different genetic engineering and stuff that was done during the war was very devastating. But it does talk about these different abilities that different races had and how they were trying to hone in on those abilities. So, we each had things that resonated for us based on where we were, on how we operated, the way that we, would be in the world. But we all shared different things and supported each other. And so where one might be great at that, as you said, swinging, from tree to tree, another might be really great in the water, and another might be, so we would work together and just try things. And it was beautiful. I love the comment there, fearlessness. It really was.
Yeah. I'm living through your words today. I'm going there in my imagination because, life on other worlds fascinates me, and the way that they live in their society and what they have to teach us about how we can live. Even though your memories are from, did you say millions or billions of years ago? It was a while ago in linear time.
Well, and this is the thing, right? We talk about past lives, but because time isn't linear, it really is parallel.
Right. Well, I'm thinking, so this happened before Earth was formed and before we went through all our iterations and incarnations on Earth. We've been through many societies that have evolved into an enlightened state and then been wiped out and then evolved again and been wiped out. And here we are again at a precipice point where technology is meeting consciousness, and is service to self going to overtake, or is service to others? Is consciousness going to change as we move into a more technological age? And, we've talked about Atlantis and Lemuria and the Atlanteans. let that technology be more service to self and control dramas and yada, yada, yada. So what's happening? Is it, how do you say it, Lyra? On Lyra now. Is Lyra still, is that still a planet in our timeline? And have they evolved from that time that you remember? Yeah.
See, the constellation is still there, and there's actually planets forming again. New stars coming into being. It was beautiful. I was driving one day, and it was early in when this was coming in, and my eldest said, "I keep seeing this this figure, and they have a bird face, and it's just explaining the whole how they look." And I said, "Okay, well, let's tap in and see, where are they from, what's going on." And then so Ray drew a picture of a planet, and then drew this whole city center almost, and I nearly fell over when I saw it, because the city center piece was actually a part of where I was in my lifetime. And then the planet, it was beautiful. And I was like, okay, let me just see. And I started to research, and I saw that there was a new star forming, and it looked exactly like what Ray drew. So I was blown away to be able to see that. So there is evolution happening. The Lyrans that are still here are, there's rebuilding happening, but they're also living in so many different systems on different stars and planets. And so there's a piece where we go, yes, we can rebuild, and that's what happened with Mintaka. I talk about that in the book as well. But then there's other times where we go, it's okay, we're going to allow this system to regenerate, which is a big piece of what has been happening in the Lyra constellation, because it needs to rebuild and regenerate. The energy that is there is reforming. And so as time goes on, we're getting some of this back, but it's definitely not what it used to be.
Okay. Yeah, I keep thinking of Lyra as a planet, but it's a constellation. It's rather, there's many planets in Lyra, right? Lyra's not one planet.
No.
Is that right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we're not taught about cosmic history in school, like we're taught cosmic geography, and I mean, the Pleiades are the same. The Palladian system, the Pleiades is not one planet, it's a system. The Orion is the same. It's an Orion. Orion isn't a planet, is it? It's a constellation. Is that right? I don't know. Yeah.
They're all different constellations. Even the Draco system, Draco is a constellation. And so when we are talking about these systems, we're talking about the area that they are. It's not that they're just one thing. So like Mintaka is a star in the Orion constellation. It's right. So we have all of these different these different
comments.
My whole life, I don't care. No, there's all of these different places that. The other piece to this that's really interesting. So the way that the whole galaxy it's similar, but it changes. Just like we know that the Earth has changed over the course of its lifetime, and it's the layout of it and all has shifted. The same thing happens in the cosmos, because there's always that shifting and changing when we look at how the galaxy itself is in motion. And so what we see today versus what we saw then is different. And then of course there is a huge difference because of the war and how that really did change the layout in many ways. Like I said, the Arcturus stream that got brought in, the Draco system being, influenced by the other system through that mini galaxy. So there's just a beautiful kind of transition and evolution that has happened at the same time. it's continuing to move and transition. And so it'll be neat to see, as new things do come up, I hope that I maybe get to see it, that they'll show me, if another planet becomes inhabitable in the system, I would love to go there.
In the Lyran system or in any system?
Oh, well, I mean, any system, but in the Lyran system specifically.
Yeah. So I don't know much about the wars. So the Draco started to attack the Avalon, the planet that you were on. Was it all the planets or just one planet? Was it the whole system or just one planet?
A huge part of our system was completely destroyed.
So it was destroyed because they wanted the resources, a bit like the movie Avatar. They wanted the resources. Do you know what resources they were? Was it like mineral?
It wasn't like Avatar in the mineral sense. It was more about life sustaining, right? We were very good with agriculture. We were very good with tending to the planet. And so they wanted a planet that was healthy and that they could, take over. Their planets were not.
The planets were dying. And they wanted to take over. So basically they wanted the planet, but they wanted to wipe off the population on the planet so that they could dominate. But did that happen? Did that happen?
No. I think about it as a child having a temper tantrum. When it came to the point that they realized we were not going to just give everything over, they were like, that's it, fine. If I can't have it, neither can you. And we didn't anticipate that being how far they would go because we knew that they wanted the planet. So when that memory resurfaced, I think that's where that original card of it's okay, your family is okay, because I talk about this in the book, but I saw my planet be destroyed with my family on it. And so it wasn't, we knew that they were going to attack, but we did not realize that they were going to just destroy the planet.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of people, can you hear the noise outside? There's a lot of noise happening outside. Is it coming through my mic? No?
Periodically, but no.
Periodically. Okay. Today. It's an interesting day today. Okay, disruption. So we're talking about disruption. There's disruption going on all around me. And the earth is in this place of disruption, war. And I was saying to Jennifer before that I had, her name still hasn't come back to me, someone on the show about a decade ago, and she was blown up in a bomb blast. Many of you know who I'm talking about, the application of impossible things. I don't know why her name's not coming to me. It'll come to me in a minute. And I was talking about war and will war cease on this planet? Because all the light workers are like, we want peace, we want peace, we want peace on this planet. And there never seems to be any peace. Some government or somebody always finds a reason to create another war. Yeah, so there's a lot of people here with that memory of those galactic wars. Why do you think they're here on Earth at this time?
Well, I think that that's exactly why we're here, is because of the time that we're in. And so we, it is. It's mirroring exactly what is going on, the galactic wars and now. And I think that's why when they said, no, you have to do this and you have to get this out now, is because it's, I think I mentioned this just before the show, but everybody who has read it around me, who's given me feedback, has said this is a galactic activation. I'm remembering my lifetimes. I'm remembering what it is I'm here to bring forward. And I think that that is just such a beautiful thing, because we did all come in this time for a reason. And we are here to bring back the memory of what it was to go through that destruction so that we don't do it again. The opportunity is here for us to really step into what we knew then. For me, I think that's been the biggest kind of transition, is that as I've stepped into my understanding of this lifetime, I've been able to bring back the memory of that connectedness. I've been able to step even deeper into the oneness. I'm able to handle things and look at things differently. And when it comes to conflict and the way that we navigate it, it really is a huge paradigm shift. And the more of us that are able to make that shift and show up in a different way, the more the world can transform. And so all of us who are here, who have those memories, who have been through that lifetime, are here in order to help with that, with this journey. And it's not about negating the polarity, right? We recognize that there's always going to be this push and pull that happens. That's what brings about change. But our goal, at least if we want it to be our goal, is to, how do we reconcile that? How do we come back into balance? How do we allow ourselves to align so that we're not in the push and pull all of the time, but we have the ability to still experience? Because ultimately we incarnated to have experiences, and all experiences, not just the happy experiences. It's this mind and this human form that's decided this is good and this is bad, this is right and this is wrong. The idea is to experience in all of the ways that we are able to experience life. And this is something that was really important when I was bringing through the book, because we recognized that even the war, even the difficulty of it, had purpose. And when we're able to look at it from that standpoint, we have the ability to transmute that energy. But if we stay in that place of feeling the pain and staying in that victim state, which again, it's experience. If that's the experience that we want to have, so be it. But if we want to transmute it, we do have the ability to. And the book talks a lot about my personal journey in the second half. Like I said, there was 3 parts, and the second part is the story being told from my lens. And so I talk about the pain, I talk about the trauma. I remember the first time through getting it back saying, Jen, you say grief a lot. And I looked and I did a word search and went, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to change that. But the first time through was the first time in this lifetime that I was processing it. And so I was heavy in the grief. And then as I moved through the healing process, the edits changed and the way that the book was told was changed. The narrative of the story was adapted, not from that pain point, but from that healing perspective. And so I think that that is a huge piece of why we're here right now, is to hold space for that healing in the world.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, I mean, grief is around feeling loss. And here on earth, we talk about, loss of loved ones, loss of pets, loss of money, loss of relationships. But yeah, you lost a planet. you lost everything. It's like, but at the same time, I'm thinking, all those souls that disappeared as that planet was destroyed. I don't know how, was it blown up? I don't know how the planet was destroyed, but I'm imagining that it was sort of like blown up. Have all re-emerged, and they understand that nothing's been lost. It was just an experience they were having on a physical incarnation on a planet, and that they're all still together as souls, if you like. Have you recognized, in saying that, have you recognized a lot of soul family here on earth that were there during that time? Yeah,
I have. It's been an incredible experience having brought this through, because I meet different people and there's just this moment of, I know you on a deep beautiful. I know you. I remember we were doing a Twillo talk. So I also do a Galactic Gab. It's with Tanis Coughlin from the Twillo Lifestyle Community, and it's with Dr. Lisa Thompson. And so Dr. Lisa Thompson talks a lot about her life as a galactic as well. And I didn't know her at all. The first time we met, she was a guest on Twillo Talk. And we get into the before the show, and I just like, I know you. I know your energy. We do the whole show and go through it. And then Tana says, she's from the book, huh? And I said, yeah, and I know exactly who she is. And so we were talking, and we're all just crying. And so I sent her a section of the book, and I was given her name in that lifetime that she had also been given, and everything about her and what she was doing just resonated so deeply. And it's been those kinds of beautiful moments that have come forward, and it's people all over the world where, you know, we'll meet, and it's just that immediate, like, I know you, I know that energy. And so I feel incredibly blessed to be able to reconnect with these energies in this lifetime and have that support again as we journey through yet another adventure.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the reasons people come to Earth and why they're here. They're incarnated in physical bodies in this time frame that we're in as we, you know, put this podcast out. And there's so many reasons, a myriad of reasons. Often we talk about past lives from this planet, but there are so many people here that have had adventures, experiences, challenges in past life, future lives, present lives on other planets. And so much has happened. It's so vast, isn't it? It's just so vast. And there's so many people here. The dynamics have been the same too. What is Fargo saying here? Been the same, which has been interesting.
Mm-hmm. The dynamic. So what's interesting, and what that Fogo Pogo is Kaylee, and what she's referring to is really interesting. So Tanis is also in the book, and in the book I have to leave my home and I go to the Pleiades, which is where Tanis is from, and Dr. Thompson is in the outskirts. She's on a secret base out in the middle of space. And where we are now, I have left my original home. I now live in Canada, which is where Tanis is from, and Dr. Lisa Thompson lives in Hawaii. So it's just an interesting dynamic to see that, you know, even in this lifetime, we've followed particular patterns that were similar to what we had done in that lifetime.
Yeah. And Brady says here, the first Star Wars introduced the concept to me of an entire planet being destroyed all at once when Princess Leia's planet was blown up. Oh, I don't remember that. Anyway, It's a long time since I've watched Star Wars. I never even imagined that concept before I saw that. Yeah, I wonder if all these movies, you know, talking about things like that, Star Wars and Star Trek and Avatar, if they bring back memories for many people, galactic memories from their other lives on other planets.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you bring that up, because I hadn't realized that. But as you said, it's been a long time since I've seen Star Wars. That being said, I am sure that that's the case. I mean, Star Wars is the great galactic war. Like, you think about the different sides and all of that. Even some of the terminology is is quite similar. And so I think it's definitely memory that has inspired these incredible movies.
Absolutely. And Desley's got a question here. I'll do a station ID break and then we'll come back and answer this. Good morning. Can you talk more about Mintaka and what happened? I don't know anything about Mintaka. Do you know about Mintaka?
I do, and I talk about it. I do talk about it in the book. So if you want to deep dive into it, you can take a look. But basically, what happened?
Well, we'll get back into it. I'm just going to do a station ID and then we'll come back and talk about Mintaka.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio, hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
We're actually streaming on more than 8 platforms today. We're on probably about 10 or 11. We're also streaming on Jennifer's YouTube and Facebook page. Yeah, and my guest today is Jennifer Jurkofsky, who was on the show last week, talking about the Galactic Embassy that's going to be built hopefully by 2030, about in 5 years. Hopefully there will be a physical place. As I said last week, they should be all over the planet, really. But the first one will inspire other ones to be built where we can meet and our cosmic family. But she's talking about her memories from another lifetime, which just fascinates me. Great conversation today. Thanks, Diane. You say that every show. Wellwood Shirley says that. And Desley wants to know about Mintaka. Is Mintaka another planet?
So Mintaka is a star, but it's
a star.
livable with the, for the galactics. So planet. I think that we use the word planet just to mean a hospitable place that we can live when it comes to the galactics. And because we could live with stars, it's different than what it is here for us. We as humans would not be able to live on a star. So Mintaka. In the memory that I was given, and again, I do recognize that, we do have different timelines and everything else, but in the memory of this for me, Mintaka actually was one of the first planets that the Draconians had gone after. And they had not made their technology to the point of being able to completely destroy a planet. And so what had happened is that they shattered parts of the planet, but they did not actually destroy it when they went after it. And so parts of it were still able to be inhabitable and other parts were not. And that, when I talk about it in the book, I'm talking about it because one of the main, I'm just going to say characters, one of the main characters in the book, his family originally was from Mintaka, and they ended up having to relocate because of that. And so later in the book, we talk about when the Draconians went back and they tried to destroy Mintaka, and they weren't able to do so. We were at a point where we were able to stop that from happening. But what fascinated me in this whole process was being given the actual layout of how Mintaka is now, because we talk about it as, one star in the sky, but it's actually a constellation in itself of multiple stars. And when that was originally given to me, I'm going, like I said earlier, I don't know about that. I'm going to have to look that up. That doesn't make sense to me. Sure enough, Mintaka is a series of stars or parts of stars that are orbiting together in a cluster. And so again, it was just this confirmation that the information that had come through was indeed accurate to what's in the cosmos for us now.
Yeah. And I think we're still discovering stuff because our technology hasn't been always accurate in discovering other planets. I once talked about on the show, what's her name? Oh, million names. Anyway, the Alpha Centauri system. Someone was talking about coming from a planet in the Alpha Centauri system. And I think that they said that when Venus was not destroyed, but when it became uninhabitable, the population went out into they were a space-based population, went out into the cosmos and populated the Alpha Centauri system. And I think they said there were 11 planets there. And when you look it up here, we don't see those 11 planets. But then over the years, more and more planets are being discovered in that system. So, so that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, we don't have the technology yet to see all of what is going on. But as we do develop, it's beautiful to see what we're understanding and how it actually connects to the galactic history that we've been given.
Yeah. God, there's so much to learn. We just totally need to be reschooled in all of this. Like what we learn in school. Oh, yeah, amazing. Yeah, amazing. I mean, you know, in one of the books that is one of my favorite books, The Bible Prophecy, talks about these ETs coming to pick up someone, and they're from a ninth category planet, and they give him all this information, ask him to write a book about it, and it's called The Bible Prophecy, and he does. But in that scale of categories of planets, not dimensions, but categories of planets, they're a ninth dimensional planet, and we're a first dimensional planet, not dimensional, category planet. So we're way down the bottom in understanding information, consciousness, evolution. Yeah, so we've got a long way to go. We keep talking about the shift, but it's only one baby step on the ladder of evolution, right? Only one baby step. I mean, even people saying, if you believe in aliens, you're crazy. It's so crazy in itself, really, isn't it? To think that we're alone in this massive universe.
I do. I feel like it's more crazy to think that we're alone and that there's nothing else out there than it is
Right.
that the possibilities are endless.
Desley says the Mintaka is part of the Orion Belt, part of her star lineage. Did the Draco co-create with the Mintakans as this is part of my lineage too? What do you mean by that? Co-create what? Co-create bodies? Anyway, do you know the answer to that question, Diana?
I think I'd love to know more about what you're asking. I know that the Draconians in the more difficult parts of that time, they did do things with other races where they were trying to manipulate DNA and all of that kind of stuff. And so if that's what you mean about having a split lineage, did they mate? Yes, but that's actually in the book, which is really interesting that you're asking that. They did not necessarily at the Mintakans will, but the Draconians definitely did. And part of the story, actually a very significant part of the story, is about somebody who that happened to, and she had to be rescued in order to be healed, and so she was brought to the Arcturian healer, and so that she was able to actually give birth, because she would have died before she was able to do that. And one of the main characters who helped with ending the war actually came from that. So
that lineage.
That lineage.
So how did they end the war? So the Draconians destroyed the planet you were on, which was Avalon. Did they only destroy one planet, or did they destroy more than one planet?
They destroyed a lot of planets, and they destroyed a lot of planets before the war was over. And you know how we were talking before the show about how things perpetuate to a point that they end themselves, because we get to that place where destruction breeds destruction until it is also destroyed. And so that really is what ended up happening. The Draconians overstretched, overreached, and that became their downfall. So without giving all of it away, but basically they decided that they wanted to start going after the dragons. They wanted to force their way back, and they wanted to try to take over again. And at that point, the upper echelons said, nope, that's it. We're putting an end to this. And that is a huge part in what allowed the war to turn in our favor.
So that again happened even before Earth was formed, right? In a distant past. And what influence do you think? Because I always say that Draconians have a bad rap, because there are races of Draconians that have been very service to self and controlling and wanting to take over. And then there are lots of other Draconian races that don't. They just live in peace and harmony, and they're happy, and they don't want to take over or control anybody. But what influence do you think the Draconians have had on Earth in our past and as we stand right now?
Yeah, I think this is where, for me, it differentiates. And I know a lot of people don't differentiate the reptilians and the draconians, but the reptilian race as a whole is what is on the other side. So that's the dragons and the rest of the reptilian race. When they came here, for me, and this is just in my understanding of it, they became draconians. So the draconians are specifically the ones that were pushed aside, whereas the reptilians is the entirety of the race.
Yeah, like saying humans, and there's all different flavors of humans.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
White, black, Asian.
Yeah. And so even some of the draconians ended up being with the Galactic Federation. They ended up signing the treaties. They ended up doing all of that. So not you can't just say one is all. That's never going to work with any grouping ever. But in this case, when we talk about draconian and draconian energies, I think we often focus on the negative aspects of it, but there are beautiful aspects of it when it comes to leadership and determination and all of that. And so when we look at starseed energy, I think it's funny because sometimes when people will talk about, reptilians or draconians, they put like the light reptilians or the light draconians. And it is that piece of, we also have darkness, and in all of the races, we suffered. We had different, emotions that came up within us. It's not good, bad, right, wrong. Again, it's experience. And so if we have the different qualities, it's about what is it that's meant to come through with that? What am I supposed to understand about it? Am I meant to sit with it? Am I meant to transmute it? What is it that is coming forward for me in this moment? And it might be different, down the road. That might shift for you as well. I have, you would have seen it on the website for the book. I have a starseed guide. And the guide, it looks at these different starseed energies based on your birth information. And it is beautiful to see how we can have a mix of different starseed energies within us. And so to the comment about, having Mintakan qualities and feeling connected to the reptilians, of course, one, we probably have had multiple lifetimes that have been parts of multiple races. But also, these energies, they're with us for a reason in this lifetime. So understanding that more deeply is going to help you to be able to, navigate. What's this? Yes, this is the the website, and the frequency report is there. So the frequency.
For people listening on radio, I'm just showing Jennifer's book website. Your name here, constellations.
Yeah. So again, 3 parts.
Get your astrological starseed frequency guide she's offering here about your personalized starseed guide. Yeah, interesting for all those starseeds out there that want to know more about their lineage. Very interesting. Yeah, go on. Please go on.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to share about what's in it. So the first part, you've got your sun, your ascendant, and your moon with your galactics. And then the rest of that section is just a basic astrology chart. Then the next part is your frequencies. And so this is based in the gene keys, but gene keys with a twist. It's the gene keys with your galactic heritage and what that looks like. And so it looks at the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi, or the enlightened energy associated with the galactics that are part of the gene key in your life path.
Desley's loving this conversation. Desley's an Australian. Did the RH negative blood originate from the dragons? Got to get your book. I have done the astrology chart. Is the frequency chart different?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know about the blood types. I've heard that before, but I don't know. That's not something that I've been given, and it's not something I've looked into. So yeah, astrology chart. So the frequencies, so if you're not familiar with the gene keys, the way that the frequencies work, we're only doing the first 4, which is your sun, earth on either side. Again, we're getting into like human design and all of that. If you're not familiar with it and you want to learn more, actually on my Holistic Self's website or on Passenger Consciousness, there's a whole bunch of information, and you have the human design book there as well. So if you want to deep dive into all of that, you can, or you can always just reach out. But the way that the frequencies work, it is your life's work, your purpose, your radiance, and your evolution, your radiance and your purpose. That's the path of the gene keys. And so we look at those through the lens of the galactics. So I'm just like, I could pull it up as an example, but the idea behind it is, okay, let's say your life purpose and the gate, there's a frequency with each of the gates. And so there's 64 gates. This is based in the I Ching. And each one of those gates has an energy associated to it. And what I've done in this part of the birth chart is I've also brought in the galactic energy that's associated to that gate. So you get to see from a galactic perspective, how does this shadow show up? What is the gift of this energy? And how can I bring that into that enlightened state? So it's a very different way of looking at the gene keys for that. And then the third section is just a whole lot more information about galactics, about what it is to have the galactic energy here today. And it's much more of a book kind of format, but with tools for you to dive deeper into your chart if you want to.
Fascinating. So I'm trying to share your website, but the internet's running really slowly today. Anyway, hopefully it's coming through. Yeah, go on. You seriously what?
I do see it. So if you scroll up to the top,
yeah,
and you'll see under the additional services, there's human design. Human design, yep. And if you scroll all the way down, there's all of the laugh and learns that I've done about human design. So you can really kind of deep dive into all of that learning if you want to. There's a whole lot of other things offered on the page, but as you go down, you'll get to the list of videos.
Oh, I see. Okay, got to keep going. Yeah, as I say, it's loading really slowly, so it's not actually loading. Anyway, we'll stop sharing that. I want to know about the formation of the Galactic Federation, because this is something that you talk about too. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So during this time when I was young, it had already the conflict. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad it's the guide is incredibly informative, eye-opening, and definitely highly accurate to me personally. I think my first comment to Jen was, "This thing is calling me out in a good way." Of course, yes. Yeah, so the Galactic Federation was a concept that was in the works before I was a part of it. So generations before, we're starting to form councils, and they were trying to come together and bring the different races together. And the Federation was close to being formed when my parents and Teriel's parents, which is the other kind of main character in the book with me, when our parents died. And so we took over their work in trying to bring the Federation about. And again, I'm telling the story from my perspective, but there was a lot of us that were working towards bringing this to fruition. And the idea was that we needed to be together. We needed to be united. And we always had felt like we were united, but we never had something that we needed to be united against, per se. So the Federation was this first movement towards making sure that we were all on the same page about what we wanted to do and how we wanted to handle things, and that we wanted to support one another. And as the war shifted, it became about rebuilding and how do we, help everybody who's been displaced, and how do we start to rebuild planets, and how do we work together to make sure that everybody's okay. And then as that got better, it became, now what do we want to do about reaching out? And so in the back of the book, so I said there's 3 sections. The third section actually has the first Galactic Codex for the Federation that was given to me in my memory. And so that is in there about the guidelines that they want to use when it comes to interacting with planets like Earth. And so it's really cool to see how that came to be, just through, again, we were using, the notes from our parents and those that they were working with in order to bring that to fruition. And a big section of the book does talk about those initial meetings with the Federation, how it really became solidified, the original signing of the Codex. That's all in there.
Yeah, fascinating. And what are some of the principles that because I know that, again, is it Star Wars, Star Trek? I think it's Star Trek. There is that non-interference. What do they call it? They sort of go over some of the principles that the Federation abide by, and that they abide by when interacting with other planets. They can't interfere. Do you remember that?
That non-interference. And there is a lot of that in there. It's interesting too, because you were talking about with Lemuria and Egypt and Atlantis, all of those. And I do talk about those in that third section about the cosmic influences on Gaia. But it is, there has been times where they've influenced greatly. And then times where there's been this step back.
If they're blowing up your planet, they've influenced it greatly. But, somebody in the chat, tell me what that's called. It's the directive that Star Trek talks about.
Oh, right. The Prime Directive.
The Prime Directive? That's what it is?
I think that's what it is. As soon as you said directive, it came back.
Memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you have to let a planet evolve on its own, but you can influence, you can guide. It's a bit like guidance, actually. I always say that my guides never tell me what to do, but they guide me. They gently guide me. They make suggestions, and I have a choice, yes or no. There's no commands. There's no demands. And something
that's the first.
You're going.
Yeah, that's the first article, right? The sovereignty of all sentient beings, to recognize that you don't get to just step in and take over.
Right. Yeah. And in saying that, I believe that there is, because we're a young planet, we're a first category planet, we're an evolving planet, there's been this protection so that service to self, more controlling races can't just step in and take over and control. Because there are a lot of people out there that say that, the royal family are all reptilians, and, all the rich people are all reptilian. Like, there's lots of stories out there about how we're being controlled by nefarious ET races. But because we're a young evolving planet, that can't be the case, because there is some sort of protection that allows us to evolve on our own without being controlled by other galactic forces. Yeah. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah. That's tough, because yes, the Federation has agreed, one of the articles in there is spiritual and cosmic evolution, and that we are meant to be able to evolve at our own pace. And not everybody is part of the Federation. Not every galactic is going to abide by those rules. Mm-hmm. So, even though there's different groups of galactics, those that follow the Federation and the Codex are not going to step in, but that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be others that maybe try to at different points. The Federation's goal is to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? But not everybody has, signed off. Not every galactic in all of, everything, I say the multiverse, has signed off to say, yeah, we're going to follow that.
Yeah. So you think there are nefarious influences from service to self ETs on planet Earth?
There already have been, incidents where that has happened. We talked about, you mentioned about Atlantis and what had happened there and that switch to service to self. And so, it's interesting because we talk about guides, and a lot of these energies can show up as guides. And so part of this is, they come and they share spiritual knowledge with us and wisdom. And that's what happened throughout all of these, original races that had this deep connection to the cosmos. And so to say that there's no influence, I don't know that that would be true either. I think that we are being influenced by all of the energies because that's what we're here to experience.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of positive influence, but are people listening to the positive influence? I don't know, like I think I said it on the last show, there's been a lot of ETs reaching out, coming into human form and reaching out like to our governments and saying, we've got some suggestions for you, how you can do this better, and the governments have ignored them. And and so things haven't changed. I was asking Jennifer about the Canadian government. They had a change of the guard recently. How long ago was it? Was it this year, last year? Anyway, Prime Minister changed, and has it, what's changing? And she's like, oh, nothing much. Just it's all rolling out really slowly, and that could be said about every government really across the planet.
It is. I mean, everybody comes in with these big ideas and they want to do this and they want to do that. And then they get caught up in the red tape and everything that has to be done. And, it takes forever if things change. And, we look at this and go, okay, nothing's changing and yet everything's changing because we are in that perpetual change. And yet so much just stays the same.
Absolutely. That's how I felt about the embassy when we were talking about it. Last week, because I had Sylvain on the show 4 years ago talking about it, and then 4 years later, what's changed? And really, the money's there, the infrastructure's there, the design's there, the enthusiastic people that want to be a part of it are there. Like all that's there, but the only thing that's stopping us is having some sort of official governance around it. And so you have to talk to politicians and governments and that's just halting the whole project. It's just nothing can be agreed upon, nothing. Yeah, it's just halting the whole project.
Yeah, just the fact that there is a government that is willing to take a look at this shows that there is a shift happening, but it is still a slow process.
A slow process, unless there's some cataclysmic event that really speeds up the process, which is really possible. Lots of people have spoken about it. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes of the show left. Is there anything else that you want to share that you haven't shared about remembering your galactic lifetime and what you're here to do on Earth?
It's interesting, with being a part of the Alliance and being introduced to that community, because part of my work in that lifetime with the Federation and the Elders Council is being brought forward again in this lifetime. And so with what's been going on, one of the things that came forward, and we talked about it a little bit with Sylvain last week, is the new kind of, it's not a codex, but a charter for Earth. And what is it that we as inhabitants of Earth need to be moving towards in order for us as a collective to be ready for contact? And so when we look at that, I think it was really interesting that I was able to bring that through and the Elders Council have come through several times, even in channeling and things, to bring messages forward. And that I really do feel is my role right now in this readiness phase. And that's why I work in mental health and wellness, and why I want to connect those different energies together between the science of it and the spiritual, because that's what we need as a collective in order to open and be ready for the next steps.
So do you see in your lifetime that we will become, a space-based society? Like we will really interact with the rest of the cosmos?
I want to say yes. But what I'm getting is,
Hmm.
They want us to be ready, and I want us to be ready. Whether or not that actually happens in this lifetime is yet to be confirmed.
Yeah. Look, when I tune into the UAP, UFO discussions that a lot of people are having, like the Ross Coulthard on Newsnet and stuff, all they want to talk about is how, well, not all they want to talk about, but a lot of the conversations is how the deception, how the governments have covered this information up. And that's been going on for over 100 years. Like we were having more discussions about spaceships and galactic societies and men from outer space probably in the 40s and the 50s than we were. Well, maybe we're starting to have more of them now than all the way up to now, like, for the last 50, 60 years. And it's been so covered up, and everything's just run so slowly. I had a young woman on the show, what time is it? Years ago, who had a memory, what did she call it? A time slip, where she slipped into a parallel reality of Earth. She had an experience on a parallel reality of Earth, which back in the 40s during the Roswell crash, when they back engineered the technology and had the galactic contact happened. Instead of covering it up, it basically happened. And so I think it was in 2018 when I spoke to her. So she was in this parallel reality of Earth having this experience, being there at about the same time in 2018 that we are here on this Earth. And it was a completely different planet. Like it was a completely different, everything that just operated differently. She said that she walked out to this ultra modern city and everything was free. Like you could ride you didn't have to pay for anything. And I can't remember what she said, but I just loved that conversation with her, because disclosure happened in 1947 and in 1950, and the reality of being a part of the cosmos became real in our society, and how evolved we had become in that 50, 60 years was exponential. Yeah. So maybe, anyway, what do you want to say about that?
No, that would have, had that happened, we would be in a completely different, timeline right now, for sure. And that, I know we're close to time, but that was something we had gotten to kind of at the end of the last talk that we had. And here we are again with this idea of, you had asked early on, what was it like? Did we have money? And no, everybody did what they wanted to do. And it's fascinating because when we came in with choice. So you know how we talk about like contracts and things like that. I talk about this in the book as well, but we came in choosing where we wanted to be, what kind of, who our parents were and all of that, so that we would be guided into different life paths based on what we wanted to do. And, there's actually a review of the book, and they were like, oh, you made the author made herself out to be this big whatever. And it's not like that, because each person, it didn't matter what you did, was so vitally important to the whole. And there was never, oh, this thing is greater or better or higher than this other thing. Everybody and everything that they did was so special and so important and valuable. And we saw everybody as valuable, no matter what role they took on. But we were able to do things based on what we loved, what lit us up, what brought us joy. And so whatever we ended up in our pathways, we did things to align to those different areas. And that allowed for everybody to be happy and to be able to share their gifts. And there was no, mine, or I want to do this for me. It was always, what can I do? What can I do that's going to light me up, that will also light you up? What can I do that is going to be able to gift to the whole? And so everybody did that. And it was a beautiful way to be.
Yeah. Service to others. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, darling one, this has been so gorgeous having this conversation. As I'm thinking about, that question I asked you, do you see us being a space-based civilization in your lifetime? You look a lot younger than me. I don't see it in my lifetime, but how much longer do I want to be here? But I think we touched on it last week, the event of AI might exponentially accelerate that process, because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. Like there was some guy, you look on the podcast shows, there was some podcast statement that said all these jobs will be gone by 2027 because of AI. So as everyone stops striving to survive and their jobs disappear, society has to change. Like money, the whole money structure has to change. Just so there might be an exponential acceleration. Yeah, we'll wait and see, huh? Yeah.
A lot would have to change for sure.
Yeah.
Are we capable of that change? Yes, but people have to want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I see in the younger generation, they definitely want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As Esther Hicks would say, the old grumpy ones have to die out and the new inspired ones, come through. But with this evolution in consciousness, a lot of the younger generation are remembering their sacred contracts, their sacred agreements, their past lives, their linear lives. That's becoming a much bigger conversation, especially in the younger generation. I mean, I've said this many times. My daughter doesn't love me talking about aliens or ETs. She's very earth-focused and healing-focused, but she in a much more grounded way. And when I talk about it, it freaks her out because she's, again, under the conditioned thought form that if you talk about it, you're crazy and people are going to ostracize you and, yada, 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 that kind of stuff. But she moved in years ago. It was a few years ago. She moved in into a household with a few people, and she was complaining about mum always talking about aliens. And one of the young men that she moved in with was working as a social worker in a hospital, counseling kids that were trying to kill themselves and all this sort of stuff. Beautiful young man. He said, "Oh, great, I'm a Palladian. What's your mum?" She's like, "I can't get away from it no matter where I am."
I love that.
It's so great. It's so great. Yeah, but I think that, her problem was she doesn't want to be seen as crazy or woo-woo, and she wants to feel like she fits into the mainstream. Again, there was a couple of young men that worked in the news in another state, and they did some mushrooms or ayahuasca ceremonies, and they both saw, one worked in news and one worked in another thing, but they both saw that they were more part of the problem than the solution. And so this young man started making positive stories instead of negative stories, and they were interviewing her, and I started talking about aliens, much to her embarrassment, and they were both totally on board with it. As much as she tries to shut me up talking about it, what I find is in her generation, they're up for the conversation. Yeah, they're not buying into the "you're crazy if you talk about this." So things are changing. They're moving slowly. Like Lightfoot says, glaciers move slowly. Hopefully we're not a glacier. Anything else? What have we got? A couple of minutes to go? 2 minutes to go. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
Oh my goodness. Is there any question? I don't know if there's anything that, hasn't
No
been
questions. It's been a really small audience today. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because we're in the silly season and everyone's out doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been a small audience today. And I've got an NDE on next week. I keep booking in people for December, and then I'll probably do a show talking about, just wrapping up the year. And then I'm going to just upload some recordings from January. I say this, and then I probably will book people in to try and have some time off. But
You do need to take some time too.
But we still have the Elevate shows going where you can ask questions about consciousness, evolving consciousness. But it's been so beautiful to have you on the show and to hear your story. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love this conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love being able to talk about it, about that lifetime, and most importantly, about what we're bringing forward now into this lifetime and how we're able to embody these different energies here and now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's an exciting world, really. It's moving slowly, which gets a bit frustrating. But I do wonder what the world will look like in a short 5 years. Yeah, in a short 5 years, the year 2030. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and your great questions. Desley, Lightfoot, Leslie, Fogo Pogo. What was Fogo Pogo's real name?
Kaylee.
Kaylee, and Shirley, and all the beautiful people that were here. Brad was online, and Mish was here, and Heidi, of course, all the beautiful regulars and some of your tribe. Terry, hello, beautiful souls. And we will catch you all next week. Big love to all of you. Thanks again. Bye for now.